The summer night in Bayside Heights hummed with possibility as Nathan Frost adjusted his designer tie. The rooftop restaurant, Celestial, was perched 40 stories above the glittering cityscape, its glass walls offering a panoramic view that had cost him a small fortune to reserve. "This view is absolutely breathtaking," Olivia Palmer whispered, her auburn hair catching the ambient lighting as she leaned forward. Her delicate fingers traced the rim of her champagne flute, emerald, eyes reflecting genuine awe. Nathan smiled, satisfied with her reaction. At 38, he had mastered the art of the impressive date, the right restaurant, the perfect table, the most expensive wine. It was a formula that worked especially well with someone like Olivia, 15 years his junior, and still capable of being impressed by such displays. "Only the best," he replied, raising his glass, "to new beginnings." Olivia beamed, the innocence in her expression reminding him how uncomplicated their 4-month relationship had been. She knew nothing of his failures, his regrets, only the carefully curated image of Nathan Frost, the tech wunderkind who turned a startup into a billion-dollar enterprise. The sommelier approached with their wine, an obscenely expensive Bordeaux that Nathan ordered without glancing at the price. As the ruby liquid cascaded into their glasses, Nathan felt a familiar satisfaction. This was the life he had sacrificed everything for: success, admiration, freedom. "Tell me about your day," Olivia said, her voice warm with genuine interest. She worked as a graphic designer at a boutique agency, a world away from the high-stakes technology sector where Nathan spent his days, orchestrating mergers and acquisitions. Nathan launched into an anecdote about outmaneuvering a competitor, watching her laugh at his calculated wit. The restaurant hummed around them, the gentle clink of silverware, murmured conversations, the subtle notes of a piano playing somewhere in the background. It was then, in that perfect moment of contentment, that his world tilted on its axis. She appeared like an apparition, following the maître d' to a secluded corner table. Vanessa Reed, no longer Vanessa Frost, moved with the same quiet grace that had once captivated him. Her chestnut hair fell in familiar waves around her shoulders. Her olive skin glowed in the candlelight, but something was profoundly different. The gentle curve of her belly, unmistakable beneath her midnight blue dress. Nathan's glass froze halfway to his lips, his entire body suddenly rigid. 5 years of marriage, 3 years of divorce. And now this moment of reckoning as Vanessa sat alone, one hand resting protectively on her rounded stomach. "Nathan, are you all right?" Olivia's voice seemed to come from miles away. "Yes, fine." He managed, tearing his eyes away. Just remembered something about work. But his focus was shattered. Every few seconds, his gaze drifted back to Vanessa, studying her with a mixture of disbelief and something deeper, something that felt uncomfortably like loss. She hadn't noticed him yet. Instead, she studied the menu with serene concentration, occasionally smiling to herself, as if privy to a private joy. The pregnancy suited her, lending a radiance to her features that pierced through Nathan's carefully constructed defenses. "Who keeps catching your attention?" Olivia asked, her intuition sharper than he'd given her credit for. "No one," he lied, forcing himself to meet her eyes. "Just thought I recognized someone from work." As their appetizers arrived, Nathan performed the role of attentive date with mechanical precision, but his mind was elsewhere. In the periphery of his vision, Vanessa continued to exist in her separate reality, unaware of the hurricane she had unleashed within him. The questions multiplied. With each passing minute, how far along was she? Who was the father? Was she happy, truly happy, without him? And beneath it all, the most painful question: why had he been so blind to what truly mattered when he had the chance? "Excuse me," he said abruptly, placing his napkin beside his barely touched plate. "I need to make a quick call." Before Olivia could respond, Nathan was on his feet, drawn by an irresistible gravity toward the truth he both feared and needed to confront. Nathan's confrontation with Vanessa at Celestial yielded nothing but polite distance and unanswered questions. She'd acknowledged him with cool civility, deflecting his stammered inquiries about her pregnancy with practiced ease. "My life is my own now, Nathan," she'd said, her voice gentle but firm, "just as you wanted yours to be." He'd returned to Olivia with apologies and excuses, but the evening was irreparably damaged. Now, 3 weeks later, Nathan stood alone in his penthouse, staring out at the city lights that no longer impressed him. The whiskey in his hand, his third of the evening, couldn't dull the memories that had surfaced since seeing Vanessa. Each recollection came with painful clarity, the gradual erosion of their marriage, the promises broken, the moments missed. He remembered the night Vanessa had first broached the subject of children. They'd been married 2 years, his company, growing beyond expectations. They were celebrating their anniversary at home. His meeting had run late, canceling their dinner reservations. "I've been thinking," she'd said, curled against him on the sofa, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. "What if we started trying for a baby?" His body had tensed. "Now, with the Singapore expansion just beginning?" "We've been saying not." "Now for 2 years," she'd replied, sitting up to face him. "When will it be the right time? When the company is stable? When we're financially secure? We have more money than we could spend in a lifetime, Nathan. It's not about money. It's about time. A child needs attention, commitment." She'd looked at him with those perceptive eyes. "Things you can't spare from your work?" That conversation had repeated with increasing tension over the following years. Each time, his excuses grew thinner while her patience wore down. The final breaking point came when she'd found a fertility specialist's card in her purse, one she'd been carrying for months, afraid to mention. "I made an appointment," she'd said, voice shaking with nervous hope, "just to discuss options. Will you come with me?" He'd glanced at his calendar, already knowing his answer. "I have the investor meeting that day. Can't you reschedule?" The flash of hurt in her eyes should have warned him. "I've been rescheduling my life for 5 years, Nathan. I won't do it anymore." 2 months later, divorce papers appeared on his desk. Nathan's reminiscence was interrupted by his phone. Olivia's name flashed on the screen, the 5th call he'd ignored today. Their relationship had deteriorated rapidly since the night at Celestial. His distraction was obvious, his interest waning. He let it ring to voicemail. Setting down his empty glass, Nathan moved to his home office, unlocking the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside lay the remnants of his marriage, photos, cards, the small velvet box containing the diamond earrings he'd bought for their 5th anniversary, but never had the chance to give. Beneath them was a leather-bound journal, Vanessa Zikau, accidentally left behind in her hasty departure. He'd discovered it months after the divorce was finalized, never finding the courage to return it or the strength to read it. Tonight, fueled by whiskey and regret, he opened it, her elegant handwriting filled. The pages chronicling the slow death of their marriage from her perspective, her loneliness in their lavish home, her attempts to connect with him, her growing realization that she was married to a man who was already committed to another love, his ambition. One entry, dated 3 weeks before she left, caught him to the gown. Core, I realize today that I've become a ghost in my own marriage. Nathan looks through me rather than at me. I wonder if he'd notice if I simply disappeared. Perhaps the worst part is that I still love him. But I'm beginning to understand that love isn't enough when only one person is doing the loving. Nathan closed the journal, his chest tight with emotion he'd long suppressed. The truth was undeniable. He had failed her completely. His phone rang again. Olivia, persistent despite his growing distance. This time he answered. "Nathan? Finally, "I've been worried sick, Olivia," he interrupted, his voice flat. "I can't do this anymore." The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. "It's her, isn't it? The woman at the restaurant." Nathan couldn't deny it. "It's complicated." "It's really not," Olivia replied, her voice suddenly cold. "Goodbye, Nathan." The call ended, another relationship casualty to his emotional chaos. But Nathan felt only relief as he poured another drink. The ghosts of yesterday, his only companions in the emptiness he'd created. The waterfront gallery buzzed with the city's cultural elite, champagne flutes clinking amid hushed discussions of technique and vision. Nathan hadn't planned to attend the photography exhibition until he spotted the promotional poster downtown. Transitions, New Works by Vanessa Reed. He moved through the crowded space with practiced confidence that masked his inner turmoil, nodding at acquaintances while scanning the room. The photographs lined the walls, stark, beautiful images, capturing moments of change, dawn breaking over urban landscapes, abandoned buildings reclaimed by nature, metamorphosis in various forms. Then he saw her. Vanessa stood across the gallery, her pregnancy now unmistakable at what he estimated to be 6 months. She wore a simple black dress that accentuated rather than concealed her condition, her hair gathered in an elegant twist. She was engaged in animated conversation with an older couple, her hands gesturing expressively as she explained her work. Nathan approached slowly, waiting until the couple moved on before stepping into her line of sight. "Your work is extraordinary," he said simply. Vanessa's smile faded slightly when she recognized him, replaced by wariness. "Nathan, I didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't expect to be here," he admitted. "But I saw the poster, and I wanted to see your success for myself." She studied him, perhaps searching for mockery or ulterior motives. Finding none, she relaxed slightly. "Thank you. Photography was always my passion, even when I was trying to be the perfect corporate wife." The subtle barb wasn't lost on him. "I never asked you to be that." "You never asked me to be anything," she countered. That was part of the problem. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them until Nathan's gaze dropped to her belly. "How are you feeling?" "Healthy. Happy." Her hand moved protectively to her stomach. "We're doing well." The "oui" stung more than he anticipated. "Vanessa, I need to know." "No, you don't," she interrupted, her voice low but firm. "You lost that right. Is it ... He hesitated, forcing the words out. "Is it mine?" Vanessa's expression hardened. "That's not a question you get to ask anymore." "I have a right to know if I'm going to be a father," he insisted, stepping closer. "Rights?" Her laugh was brittle. "You abandoned your rights when you abandoned our marriage, when you made it clear that your precious company would always come." First, a nearby patron glanced their way, and Vanessa lowered her voice. "This child is my future, Nathan. Not yours, not ours, mine. Who is he?" Nathan demanded, jealousy surging unexpectedly. "The father?" Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes. Pain, perhaps, or resolve. "There is no he. I made this choice alone, just like you made yours." Before he could process her words, the gallery owner appeared, gently taking Vanessa's elbow. "The journalist from Arts Monthly is here for your interview." Vanessa nodded, then turned back to Nathan. "Goodbye, Nathan. Please don't come looking for me again." He watched her walk away, her cryptic response swirling in his mind. No father? What did that mean? The possibilities tormented him as he left the gallery, stepping into the cool night air without a single photograph purchased. Back in his apartment, Nathan paced restlessly, replaying Vanessa's words. "I made this choice alone." The implication seemed clear, yet he couldn't accept it without certainty. He picked up his phone, scrolling to a contact he'd never thought he'd use, a name passed to him years ago by a colleague who'd discovered his wife's affair through less than ethical means. Howard Mercer, private investigator. Nathan stared at the number, his moral compass warring with his desperate need for answers. Finally, his thumb pressed call. Mercer Investigations, a gruff voice answered. I need information, Nathan said, closing his eyes against his own shame, discreetly. That's what I do, mister. Frost, Nathan Frost. What kind of information are we talking about? Nathan hesitated, then surrendered to his obsession. I need to know everything about my ex-wife's pregnancy. How it happened. When. With whom, if anyone. Standard rate is $300 per day, plus expenses. Mercer replied, unfazed. I'll need her name, address, routine, if you know it. As Nathan recited Vanessa's details, he felt himself crossing a line he could never uncross. But the need to know the truth outweighed all other considerations, even his last shreds of decency. The manila envelope sat on Nathan's coffee table for hours before he found the courage to open it. Mercer had called that morning. Investigation complete. Results interesting. Coming by with the report, leaving Nathan in a state of anxious anticipation. Finally, with trembling fingers, he broke the seal and extracted a thin sheaf of papers. The report was methodical, detached, a clinical accounting of Vanessa's life since their divorce, doctor's appointments, financial transactions, routine movements. Mercer had been thorough, including photographs of Vanessa entering various medical facilities over the past year. One particular set of details made Nathan's blood run cold. 3 weeks after their divorce was finalized, Vanessa had begun visiting the Pacific Fertility Center. The visits continued regularly for months, with significant withdrawals from her savings account corresponding to each appointment. There was no boyfriend, no mysterious lover, no betrayal except perhaps his own. The final page contained copies of forms Nathan recognized immediately, medical consent documents bearing Vanessa's signature. Among them was a highlighted section that confirmed what he now suspected. She had undergone artificial insemination, using donor sperm. The child wasn't his. It was never meant to be his. Nathan set down the report, a strange hollowness expanding within him. He had expected to feel relief, perhaps even vindication. Instead, the revelation left him devastated in ways he hadn't anticipated. Vanessa had wanted a child so desperately that she'd chosen to have one alone rather than wait for a man who would never prioritize family. The magnitude of her determination and of his failure was overwhelming. His phone rang, jolting him from his thoughts. Mercer's name flashed on the screen. Did you receive the report? The investigator asked without preamble. Yes, Nathan replied, his voice distant even to his own ears. There's something else, something not in the report. Nathan frowned. What is it? She tried first with frozen embryos, Mercer said, created during your marriage. The world seemed to stop. What? According to my medical source, you and Mrs. Frost, read now, underwent fertility treatments during your marriage, created embryos. 3 attempts at implantation, all failed. Ring any bells? Nathan's mind raced back, remembering Vanessa's spa weekends in the final year of their marriage, her unexplained emotional swings, the times she'd been uncharacteristically ill. She had been trying to conceive their child without telling him, knowing he would disapprove. Mr. Frost, you still there? Yes, Nathan managed. Thank you for the information. After ending the call, Nathan sat motionless, memories recalibrating with this new knowledge. All those weekends she'd been visiting her sister or at a yoga retreat. She'd been undergoing painful procedures, hoping to fulfill the dream he continually deferred. And he, absorbed in acquisitions and projections, had noticed nothing. weight of his selfishness crushed him. He'd believed himself the wronged party, the husband whose wife had moved on too quickly after divorce. Now he recognized the truth. Vanessa had simply continued pursuing what she'd always wanted, no longer hindered by his indifference. Nathan moved to his liquor cabinet but stopped himself from pouring a drink. Alcohol wouldn't fix this. Nothing would. The damage was irreparable, the consequences permanent. He had lost Vanessa, not because she'd changed, but because he had refused to dot with sudden clarity. Nathan understood that his obsession with her pregnancy wasn't about paternity at all. It was about control, his desperate need to remain relevant in her life, to claim ownership of her choices, even after their paths had diverged. The realization was humbling, shameful. For the first time since their divorce, Nathan faced the full truth of his failure, not as a husband, but as a human being capable of empathy and growth. He had loved Vanessa, yes, but on his terms, within the constraints of his ambition. She deserved better. She had finally claimed better for herself. Nathan gathered the investigator's report and fed it, sheet by sheet, into his paper shredder. The action felt symbolic, a destruction of his entitlement, his presumption that he had any right to Vanessa's private life. As the last page disappeared into the machine, Nathan made a decision. He would stop haunting Vanessa's present. He would face his own empty future, the future he had chosen with every missed dinner, every canceled vacation, every rejected plea for connection. The price of his ambition was finally clear, tallied, in the loneliness of his perfect penthouse and the life growing inside the woman who had once loved him enough to try everything to save their marriage. 4 months later, Nathan stood outside the hospital, a carefully wrapped package under his arm. The call from Vanessa's sister Rachel had come that morning, brief, hesitant, but clear. Vanessa had the baby last night. A girl. She's exhausted but doing well. Rachel hadn't invited him to visit. In fact, she'd ended with, "She doesn't know I'm calling you," but the information itself felt like an olive branch, or at least permission to acknowledge this milestone. Nathan had spent these months in painful self-reflection, making changes that surprised even himself. He'd stepped back from daily operations at his company, appointing a CEO to handle the minutiae that had once consumed him. He'd begun therapy, confronting patterns established long before Vanessa entered his life. Most significantly, he'd stopped trying to insert himself into Vanessa's world. No more unexpected appearances, no more demands for explanations. Instead, he'd sent a simple letter, just once, expressing genuine regret for his failures and wishing her happiness without any expectations of response. She hadn't replied, which he accepted as his due. Now, standing before the hospital entrance, Nathan questioned his decision to come. Was this another selfish intrusion? Another attempt to claim space in a life that was no longer connected to his? Before he could resolve his doubt, the hospital doors opened and Rachel emerged, stopping short when she saw him. "You came," she said, neither welcoming nor hostile. Nathan nodded. "I brought something, for both of them. Would you give it to her? I don't need to go in." Rachel studied him, perhaps noting the changes, the absence of his usual immaculate suit, replaced by casual clothes, the humility in his stance, the shadows under his eyes suggesting sleepless nights. "She's in room 317, she said finally. "It's up to her if she wants to see you." Heart pounding, Nathan took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Outside room 317, he paused, listening to the soft murmur of Vanessa's voice. She was singing, a gentle lullaby he recognized from her own childhood stories. He knocked softly. The singing stopped. "Come in?" Nathan pushed the door open slowly, revealing Vanessa propped up in bed, a tiny bundle cradled in her arms. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face tired but luminous with a joy he'd never seen before. Recognition flickered across her features, followed by surprise. "Nathan, I can leave," he said immediately. "Rachel told me ... I just wanted to bring something." Vanessa hesitated, then nodded toward the visitor's chair. "It's okay." Nathan sat awkwardly, placing the package beside her. "Congratulations." "Thank you," she replied, her attention returning to the newborn. After a moment, she asked, "Would you like to see her?" The question caught him off guard. "Yes, if that's all right." Vanessa adjusted the blanket, revealing a perfect, tiny face, eyes closed, rosebud lips slightly parted in sleep. "She's beautiful," Nathan whispered, emotion tightening his throat. "What's her name?" "Elise Adeline Reed." "It's perfect." An uncomfortable silence settled between them until Nathan gestured to the package. "It's nothing extravagant. Just something I thought you might want." Curious, Vanessa unwrapped it with one hand, keeping Elise secure in the crook of her arm. Inside was a leather-bound album, its cover embossed with beginnings. "Open it," Nathan encouraged softly. The first page held a photograph of Vanessa as a baby, held by her parents. The next showed her as a toddler, then a child. Pages of her, growing up, collected from her parents, siblings, and old social media. "How did you—" "Your family helped," Nathan admitted. "I thought Elise might want to see where she came from someday, who her mother was before she was her mother." Tears welled in Vanessa's eyes as she turned the pages. "Nathan, this is—" "It's not an attempt to insert myself into your lives," he said quickly. "I just wanted to give you both something meaningful. No strings attached." Vanessa studied him, perhaps seeing the changes in him as her sister had. "You look different." "I am different," he replied simply. "Too late for us, I know, but not too late for me to become someone better." She nodded, returning to the album. Near the end were several empty pages, waiting to be filled with Elise's own journey. "Thank you," she said finally. "It's thoughtful." Nathan stood, knowing it was time to leave. "I won't intrude again. But if you ever need anything at all, I'm here. Not because I have any claim on your life, but because I care about your happiness. Both of you." As he moved toward the door, Vanessa's voice stopped him. "Nathan?" He turned. "We're having a small gathering next month. Just family to welcome Elise. You could come if you want." The invitation hung between them, not a reconciliation, not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps the beginning of something new. A friendship, maybe, built on the ashes of what they had destroyed together. "I'd like that," he said quietly. Outside the hospital, Nathan faced the spring sunshine with a lightness he hadn't felt in years. The future stretched before him, unwritten and uncertain, but for the first time, that uncertainty didn't frighten him. He had lost what he once thought was everything, only to discover it was merely the beginning of understanding what truly mattered. Vanessa had found her path. Now, finally, he was finding his own.